Hey everybody, it's Dr. Levi and welcome to the show. It's your show, the Dr. Levi Show. Happy to have you with us. Today is February the 28th, 2018. Can you imagine? It's the last day of the month. Unbelievable. 10 more months to go and then we'll be into 2019. I'm telling you, it's just like that. Unbelievable. Well, I hope you're doing great. It's a little chilly here in Los Angeles. I have to tell you, I live out in the valley. As I was driving in, it was in the 40s. It was really, really cold last night. So I'm just not a cold kind of guy. So wherever you are right now, I hope you're making it a warm day. Remember, you can warm up a room with a smile, with a hug, with just a better attitude, with empathy and acceptance. So bring the warmth wherever you are. That's so important. Well, today I'm going to talk to an extraordinary guest. So I'm going to tell you about her shortly. But I also want to answer a few questions. I've gotten about 40 plus questions over the past month and a half about why do I not talk about myself or what I'm doing on air. So I want to share a few things with you. I like to have this platform as one where other people can be invested. I want other people to feel like they have a platform where I can talk about them, what they do, their businesses, their lives. I want to talk about them. So that's why I don't talk about myself much. Now, so I do want to share this with you. Things I have been working on. I've been working on a book about gratitude. So just this past weekend, 3.5 chapters are finally complete after almost 2 years. But I keep telling myself it's all right on time. Everything's going to work out when it's going to work out. The first book, The Art of Fitness, literally was 6 months from page to page done. And this one, for some reason, I think because I feel so invested in the topic of intentional gratitude that it's just taking time to really let everything sort of mellow into place. But I'm just simply being a vehicle to let everything express through. Now, I also want to share this with you. I really would like you all over the next several months to really think about employing one specific technique in your life and trying to use it. And that is the power of meditation, of really taking time every day for about 5 to maybe 15 minutes to sit quietly in a place of, yes, gratitude, or in a place of relaxation, restfulness, not restlessness, and just feeling good about who you are, what you are, and know that we're here to really be the best possible versions of ourselves, nothing else. Once you're doing you, that's enough because you are enough. No validation needed from anybody else, from any outside sources. Just love on yourself. Be good to you. So I really want you to think about meditation as a way of going to a place of self-acceptance, love, self-understanding, and appreciation. And the great thing about meditation, it really gives you an opportunity to think about what can you do to be of greater service to other people. Because when you're in tune with yourself, then you're in tune with other people. So it's about being more kind, more empathetic, more sympathetic, more loving, more present. It's truly about activism as well as advocacy. So really put yourself into that place. It's a great zone to live in. Well, let's talk about my guest. We only have an hour. I could actually talk to her for maybe 3 to 5 hours because of the topic, because I'm in the other 50%. So we have a lot to discuss with her. So I want to make sure I pronounce her name properly because I was thinking, I know I'm going to flip these double hyphenated names. So we're talking to Julie Harris Walker today, and she's with the other 50%. So welcome, Julie. How are you?
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
We're happy to have you here. Let me make sure that your mic is pretty close so we can hear you clearly. Fantastic.
All right.
We're happy to have you with us. So let's talk about your life and let's talk about the other 50%. So what is the other 50%?
Well, the other 50% is, at the moment, it's an umbrella and a brand. Because
Yes.
I have a podcast called The Other 50%, A Herstory of Hollywood.
Yes.
And I started that to really start talking
And when can
to-
people catch that? That's on which stage?
It's on Apple Podcasts and Podbase, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube.
Fantastic.
It's on all the podcast places.
Fantastic.
So on that show, I interview successful women working in the entertainment industry to hear their stories.
Yes.
And I started it a couple years ago, like when the chatter in the zeitgeist about women had just started.
Yes.
Like there was an article that came out in the New York Times, which was female directors talking about the lack of opportunity because the data had just come out, and it's something like 6% of feature films are directed by women. And we know that 50% of film school graduates are women. So
Right.
something is happening
Absolutely.
that people are starting to put their finger on called
Yes.
unconscious bias, things
Yes.
like that. And there was also a lot of chatter about wage inequality with actresses.
Right.
And I thought, okay, if there's a difference between $15 million and $20 million on a film, like that's real, that needs to be fixed. I cannot
Absolutely.
remotely relate to that. I mean, I can relate to wage inequality, but
Right.
not at that scope.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I did know a ton of women who worked in Hollywood in the rank and file and
Right.
below the line. So I wanted to start talking to them and say, you know, what really has your experience been? What's it really like for women? Are there obstacles? Is there unconscious bias?
Right.
All of this.
Right. And I also think is there unconscious bias, but also is there conscious bias?
For sure.
Right.
There's plenty of conscious,
Right.
blatant bias.
Right.
I think we, as women especially, we like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And it's so subtle sometimes
Yes.
that you think, oh, he can't really mean what he said just now.
Right.
Like that must be something unconscious. And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't.
Yes, but still needs to be corrected.
For sure.
You know, so what are you using your platform to do to make those changes? I know you're raising awareness, of course.
Mm-hmm. And not to give you the wrong impression, it's not a complain fest about what's
No,
happening.
I don't get that impression at all.
But really, it's serving now to amplify the voices of women,
Right.
and it's also spotlighting women and the work that they are doing. There's a lot of incredible work happening that women are doing, and it runs a spectrum. I interview studio executives who
Yes.
are executive vice presidents of major motion picture studios who have had incredible careers and have worked very hard and have come up through a time where, you know, they got into the business and it was, you know, fairly friendly or not fairly friendly, but
Yes.
it didn't matter. They just did the work, worked very hard,
Yes.
were excellent at what they did, and now have risen to the top of the ranks. I'm also interviewing a bunch of women at the beginning of their career, or a lot of millennials who are not waiting to get into the studio system. They're writing, directing, producing
Right.
their own material, getting distribution.
Right.
And so the stories of the whole spectrum of women in their careers is incredibly inspiring.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You know, what I love about what you're saying is because it really, your platform is not simply about giving women a place to use their voice, because women have been using their voices. I think it's so imperative now that we hear what they're saying,
Yes.
because we have to make changes, not only simply a microscopic level, but really on a macroscopic level. Things really need to be changed with respect to not only wage inequality and the Me Too movement, which I push forth, saying that all of these are great platforms that we have to listen to and be aware of. But I think it's also what I call the bootstrap sort of campaign. That is getting younger generations to understand that people should be treated respectfully, no matter
Yes.
their race, their gender identity, their sex, their sexuality. They should be treated with love, care, acceptance.
Because we're all humans.
Exactly. We're all in this human tribe.
Yeah.
You know, no matter our eye color, our height, our sex, we're all in this tribe together. So why not do things to make things better for other human beings? Because if we help them, we help ourselves.
Exactly. And I think this is part of the reason why it's the women in entertainment who I think, not to make too much of it, but is very important because what we see on our screens influences our culture.
Absolutely.
And for years, the only thing we've seen is the stories of straight white men. Not that there aren't many fabulous straight white men.
Right.
But theirs are not the only stories in the world to be told.
Correct.
And the more that we can see, Gina Davis has her whole foundation about if you can see it, you can be it.
Which is true.
And so the more that we can see all different kinds of people on screen, if they're women, people of color, people of different sexuality, transgender people,
Yes.
then we create empathy.
Absolutely.
And then we can change the world.
I agree with that.
So it's incredibly important that the people working in this business are incredibly conscious of what they're putting on screen, because that is going to change our culture.
Right. You know, when it comes to cultural change, I really think that there are 5 specific things I've always thought about that can really immediately impact culture. One is art. The other is music. The third is education. The fourth is travel. And the fifth is just community involvement. I think if you're actually involving your community, I'm not saying you have to go from here to Arizona. If you're living in LA, just in your neighborhood, if you can do a grassroots movement to say, hey, I like there to not be people selling assault rifles. Well, let me get my small tribe here involved so that we can let other people know that it's not going to be tolerated.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes one person, I think, like yourself, to say, hey, let's make a change. Let's make a conscious shift to be more accepting and more understanding.
Yeah, and just the fact of raising your voice and saying things out loud gives other people permission.
I agree.
I mean, look at the kids in Florida.
Oh, yes.
Holy cow.
Are they incredibly heroic in what they're doing? Is that phenomenal?
It's amazing.
Yes, it is.
They've shut down it's too soon, we can't talk about it, you don't know what you're saying, because they started speaking and the whole country went, wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you got to think, how many children will have to die before someone says, okay, enough is really enough. Not simply for today, but for the rest of our lives, it's like enough. Let this be the last mass shooting. I mean, you know, and the other thing, I'll just a quick aside about that. When it comes to gun control, you know, so many people say, well, it's the people who have the guns. It's really more than that. I think we have to think about the following. Number one, mental health issues involved with gun owners, background checks, also maybe raising the age at when someone can actually purchase a gun. And then also we have to be vigilant about those gun carriers in your community. If you know someone who is sort of different or just seems kind of odd, then we have to speak about it. We have to say something about it, not simply speak after the fact, you know?
Right. We have to attack it from every single angle. And to
I
get to the
agree
point
with
where
you.
people don't want to shoot other people.
Correct.
But until we get to that point,
Right.
how about they don't have the machine gun?
Absolutely. And if you think about it, who really needs a machine gun, an assault rifle? Who really needs that? Okay, people will say, well, a hunter may need one. Okay. Well, would anyone else? Because these people are using these to hunt human beings. That's what's happening. We're killing other human beings. I just find it just despicable that our legislature hasn't done more to enact appropriate gun laws to prevent this. It's just, I don't know. It's one of the few things that I'm really passionate about seeing some changes come about really, really soon.
Well, we used to have an assault weapons ban.
Oh,
and
we did.
It expired, and I don't know why it's so hard to get back there. It's funny. I used to be completely anti-gun. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't even. I've always lived in cities, and then I went to visit my family who lives in Alaska.
Yes.
And we had a gun in the front and a gun in the back because we had to walk through the woods to get to the beach.
Yes.
And there were bears.
Yes.
So we were going to die if we didn't have a gun.
Right.
I was all for it.
Of course.
In that circumstance.
Right.
But yeah, we don't need machine guns.
I don't think so
that
either.
Can be taken.
And I'm pro Second Amendment. I think if you want a gun, I think you should have that ability to have a gun. But I think we have to enact appropriate laws where that has some control. Right now, I think it's just it is just outrageous. It's outrageous. And all those wonderful kids, I can't even talk about it. It's just.
And I weep every time I see a video. They're incredible.
To me, it's just. It's just beyond, you know. Can you imagine your kid goes to school and now they're not going to come back home?
I drop 3 kids off of school every single day.
Can you imagine?
No.
It's not.
You never get
it's not
back out
fathomable. There's no reference point for that type of loss.
There's no way it's okay.
No
and
way
I
it's
thought
okay.
after Sandy Hook, how could we tolerate one more?
I thought the same. I thought Sandy Hook. You know, I got to tell you, it's interesting you bring up Sandy Hook. We've had a lot of tragedies, of course. There are 2 things that every day since they've happened, I will think about them. I'll take a breath and I'll just keep doing. One is Sandy Hook and the other is 9/11. Now, one day since those things have transgressed that I don't think about, just for like a minute or two, and I think, God, that was horrible. And I'll think about the families. I'll think about the first responders. And then I'll just say, okay, God, you have to handle it because that's something that's so heavy, so intense that we can't.
And we got to go on.
Got to go on. We got to make it better for other people. We really do. I apologize for that aside, but it was so cogent that we had to talk about it. We really, really did.
Yeah.
So what's on the narrative right now for the other 50%? What things are you working on currently?
Well, Thanks for asking.
Absolutely.
I'm working on several things, actually. One is to broaden the umbrella of the other 50%, because it started out as, I called it the other 50% because women are half of society. And for so many years we talk about women, it's women and minorities, as if women are a small niche minority.
They're
that,
not.
Half the population.
Right.
And we should be taking our spot as half the power in the world.
I totally agree.
So, at the same time, you cannot talk about women coming into their power and decouple it also from race and all other minorities.
No, because everything is intertwined.
We have all the shared story.
Absolutely.
So this year I'm broadening the umbrella of the other 50%, and I'm going to start producing a bunch of other shows with underrepresented voices to expand that umbrella.
That's great.
The second thing is I'm coming up on my 100th episode for the podcast, so I've interviewed way more than 100 women and a couple of men. And so as going through all of that, I noticed that some themes have started to arise.
Yes.
Because I ask everybody very similar questions. What did you go through? What's the advice you have for people coming up? What do you wish you had known?
Yes.
And I've really distilled that down to 5 major pieces of advice.
Which are? Yes.
Find your tribe, which is find your people.
Yes. Find your community. Find where you feel
community.
acceptance and empathy and love.
Yes. And the irony is that, the old boys club has been in operation for
since boys have been around. Yeah.
And women have giant networks. Right. However, they don't use them for work or to help each other. They use them for emotional support. Right. So it's really flipping that and realizing what a big network you have and how that is going to help you with your career.
Absolutely.
The second is ask. Women don't ask. Women don't know how to ask. We don't ask for money, for position, for promotion, for help, for self-care. We don't ask for any of those things. Yeah. So we really have to ask.
Yes.
The third is conscious inclusion.
I love that statement. Conscious inclusion. That's a beautiful statement.
It's the new way to say diversity.
I know it is, but I love it. I still love that statement, though.
But it's consciously including everyone who has been excluded, because the more perspectives you have on any kind of problem or situation or creative endeavor, the better it's going to be, and frankly, the more money you're going to make.
Absolutely.
The fourth one is find your voice. Because everybody comes from a unique perspective, unique experience, whatever it is. So don't be trying to fit into the white male narrative.
No. Just
because
do you.
Who you are and what you have to say is so uniquely important, and that is your superpower.
Absolutely.
And then in order to do that, number 5 is face your fear. Is you have to get past whatever it is that's keeping you small to be able to speak your truth, say who you are, tell your story.
I love that. As you were saying that, it made me think about 2 weeks ago, my amazing manager, Deborah Scolari, and I, we went to an event entitled Love. It was the Love Awards, and Love stands for Ladies Operating Very Effectively. Ooh. And it was so extraordinarily inspiring. I was really so grateful to present to a man there. It was the MOVE, men operating very effectively. So he was the recipient of this award, and I was able to just give a quick 2-minute talk about him, and then they present him with the award. But as you were talking about this, I was thinking, God, it would be great to have you at a lecture like that to talk about those 5 principles that you've just invoked that can really not only change your life, but allow you to be a better person.
I would love it.
Yeah, we have to make that contact happen. I'll talk to Ms. Scolari about it, because it would be like it's a perfect match. It really, really is a perfect match. Well, who are the guests that you have coming up shortly on your show?
Well, I will give away my 100th episode because it's going to be very exciting.
I want to hear about it, please. Please do share.
I have booked Sherry Lansing.
Oh, fantastic.
Who was the chair of Paramount Pictures for 20 years.
Yeah, everyone knows who that is.
Her biography came out last year. I interviewed her for a live group presentation several months ago, and she is incredible.
I believe
and she's
that.
Agreed to do the podcast, and it just happens to be right around my 100th. She's going to be the 100th episode. So that's going to be a big.
That's a big festive there.
Yeah.
That's a big day. When is that going to be? Which day?
April 17th-ish.
Wow.
Probably the second or third Tuesday in April.
That's really phenomenal. How do you feel about that? Because it says that you've been committed and consistent.
Oh, it's thrilling. It's thrilling. I first started out and I was like, oh, if I get to 10, that'll be great.
Right.
And I didn't know
now
if
it's
I'd have
10
enough
times
guests.
10.
Yeah, I have more guests than I can handle.
Absolutely.
I reach out to people reach out to me.
Right.
It's been so well received. It's been exciting.
I think it's great, because you really you're spearheading a movement of change. You're a part of the conversation. And I think we only remain relevant when we're a part of the conversation. And you're a part of it, and a big part.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, it's been exciting. And there was a moment last year, say late October.
Yes.
Not last year, the year before,
yes.
late October, when I had this feeling of, I think I'm a little late. Like, I think I missed it. I think women are just fine.
No. Now, you've seen with Me Too and every other movement out that it's right on time.
I can't get over what happened last year. Because women were talking about sexual harassment on my show a year ago, hardly ever on the microphone. They would wait until I turned it off, and then they say, okay, now I'm going to tell you this. And
really?
I would say, well, can we do that on tape? And oh, no, I'm not going to say that out loud.
Really?
Yeah.
So now that's very intriguing to me. So, okay. So what do you think the basis for that?
For
you
not
think
wanting to
for not wanting to speak? You think that was fear? Do you think that was fear of retaliation, of job security? What do you think was the reason for that?
Oh, all of it. I think it was fear. Because even though I think it's not too far off to say every woman has had some sort of sexual harassment in her career.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes.
And everybody we knew had some sort of sexual harassment. Until Me Too happened, I don't think anyone realized that it really was everybody.
Right.
And so I think Me Too provided the cover for women to be able to say, yeah, it happened to me too. Because now people will get on and I'll turn on the microphone and they'll say, okay, here's my Me Too. Let me tell you what happened. And before they wouldn't.
Right.
And I think part of it was, for so many years we thought, oh, that's just part of it, and you just bat it away and you get on with your career anyhow. Right. And then we got to a point of just palpable outrage, and we've had it.
Yes.
And now that everybody's speaking out, and I think the focus has now shifted to the perpetrators rather than to the victims.
Yes.
And I think that shift has happened, which now we can say, that guy did that to me too. Rather than that happened to me and it's my shame to hold.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important that women and any other person, anybody who has been a victim of any type of sexual abuse or misconduct or anything they felt was inappropriate, that they don't feel or carry that heavy suitcase of victimhood, that you feel good about yourself and that you're able to really go to a place of sustained freedom, that you can release it and feel good about who you are and know that you did nothing to cause that. No matter how, I want to share this with you. 2 weeks ago, I ran into a good friend of mine I hadn't seen for about maybe 9, almost 10 months. And she's an attorney, very powerful attorney, and a really, really good friend. So I saw her in the desert, and we were talking over dinner, and I said, it's Me Too movement. I said, it's fantastic that people are really like speaking up and saying things about this. I said, it's just great. I said, now what about for someone like you? I said, would you speak about that? I said, did you even have a Me Too moment in your life? And so she got really quiet, and she looked down, and I said, did you hear me? Did you have any moment like that? And then she looked up, and her eyes were really, really big, and she's beautiful. Her eyes just got teary. And I said, well, what's the matter? And so I just reached over to that table, and I just hugged her. And she said, people think because I'm so powerful and so educated that it doesn't happen in the arenas of law. She said it happens every day. And she said, Levi, you have to listen. And for about an hour and 45 minutes, she was telling me about all these things that have happened to her. And I got emotional with her. And I said, well, she said, well, it won't happen again, though. And I love that statement, because then she was at this place for me of ownership of the beauty of herself and her body, that it happened. That was unfortunate. I was at a place where I couldn't express it, but not now, Levi. So what you're saying, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping will happen, because it is a funny thing. The more powerful a woman gets, there are some men who will then target her.
Exactly.
Specifically.
Well, she said that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I saw LinkedIn comments recently on it, and there was a whole discussion about female empowerment and women doing well in corporations, and there were still men piping in, a woman's place is in the kitchen. Sit down, little lady. I'm like,
really?
Really? Publicly? On LinkedIn,
in 2018?
Yeah. It's unreal. And I do hope now, like,
Wow.
I really feel if I ever get sexually harassed again in a work environment, of course I'm going to say something.
Oh, of course.
However, something happened to me recently which made me question the whole thing. I was at a hotel a couple weeks ago with my children, and we were in the hot tub, me and my 16-year-old daughter.
Yes.
And a guy comes and gets in the hot tub with us. We're talking. He leaves us alone. Within a couple of minutes, he starts launching belligerent personal questions at us.
Really?
And with every question, he's scooting an inch closer to me.
Really?
I'm like, great.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, do I get in this guy's face? No, I got to get out of here and get my children out of here safely.
To safety, yes.
He's drunk. He's belligerent.
Yes.
He can't read a room.
Right.
Like, he can't
Right.
read the
No,
national
he doesn't. No,
conversation.
exactly.
I need to make sure not to antagonize this guy so
Right.
that it doesn't escalate.
Right.
So I got us all out of the hot tub. I got us back in the hotel. And then I was like, darn it. I was really hoping I would be different in that situation. But I also know the choice of safety
Yes, I
and
agree
getting
with you.
out and not
Yes.
escalating is
Yes.
still my priority.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So we still have a lot of work to do.
Right. We definitely do. You know, I tell you, when you said that, it made me think of something else. About a month and a half ago, I was in a store. I was standing in line, and a lady walked up behind me, and I just looked back at her and said hello, and she said hi. So I'm standing there, and the line was long. And all of a sudden, I felt something on my back pocket. So I turned around. I said, excuse me? And her statement was to me, I just had to pinch your butt. It's so nice.
Come on.
Yes. So I looked at her and I said, I said, that was really inappropriate. And I said, how would you feel if someone had done that to you? Oh, she said, well, I'd be all over them. She said, but I'm complimenting you. So
That sounds familiar.
So I told her, I said, I think you really have to think about that statement. She said, are you upset? I said, I just want you to have the conversation. And I left it at that, and it's gotten to another line. And when I got in my car, I thought, did I do the right thing there? Did I respond appropriately? And all I kept thinking was, I could only do what I could do in that moment that felt okay for me to do. So
I think you did.
I couldn't have done anything differently. I felt like the arena in a store, in a line, speaking to her, I wanted to be respectful.
It's hard.
Yeah,
It's really hard.
So
It's hard.
It was kind of odd.
and
And that was a
that's-
very minor thing,
But
in a
that's
way.
a situation that's been happening to women forever.
I
Because
believe that.
when you stop and say, hold on, no, you may not
Yeah, you
pinch
cannot
my
touch
butt.
me. Yeah.
I'm complimenting you.
Right.
I'm telling you to smile.
Right.
It's a compliment. I want you to
Right.
look pretty. Like,
It's not okay.
no.
Yeah, it's not okay. The conversation, I think, is just beginning, though. I don't feel Me Too is a movement that is going to be here now and gone in a year or two. I think this is a movement that will continue this conversation until this becomes less and less and less of an issue, and hopefully it'll just dissipate into its native nothingness where it's not a problem at all.
No, it's
Because-
definitely a shift. It's
Oh,
not
it's a major
moment.
shift.
It's
Oh,
a shift.
no.
And it's not done.
It's major.
And it's going to be painful. And I've been. People hate this metaphor, but we're popping a big zit, and we have to get all the pus out.
Out of it. You got to go deep.
But, yeah, but just the movement of it. I know several people who are going through a little bit of PTSD right now,
Really?
remembering all the things that they had shoved down because they weren't allowed to feel it or react at
Right,
the time.
right.
So there's a lot of stuff that has to come out, and it's painful, and it's awkward, and it's awful conversations, and the only way out is through, and it's going to be so much better on the other side.
Oh, I agree with you. It's communication and it's awareness. And it's also, again, the two things I often talk about on the show, activism and advocacy. You have to be involved. To be relevant, you have to be a part of the conversation. You just have to be. You can't be a bystander. You can't look and say, oh, I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad they're involved.
Those days are over. I interviewed a couple women the other day, Deborah Bergman and Dana Belcastro, and they are both heads of production at major studios.
Yes.
And we were all saying, how did I become an activist? But I am, because we all have to be.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we're activists now.
And why is that a bad thing?
Yeah, it's just, I used to say out loud, "Oh, I'm not an activist. I'm just blah la 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 la."
No. Yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are.
Turns out.
Oh, yeah, you are doing it.
Yeah.
What do your children think about what mommy does? I like to hear what they think.
Oh my! It's funny because they first of all, I've ruined everything. We can't watch.
Your mommy.
Yeah, we can't watch television without me pausing and saying, "Okay, do you notice right now that la 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 la?"
Right.
Okay, we know it's The Bachelor. It's horrible. I know.
Right.
So I've ruined everything. So my middle daughter, who's 12, is like, "Well, you know, I'm going to grow up and talk about how I was raised by a raging feminist." I'm like, I know, my work is done.
Right.
But then we'll be in situations where something will pop up, and I won't say anything.
Right.
And she'll say it.
Oh, really? So
Yeah,
she'll
and
say it.
Then I'll say, "Oh, see, you're doing it now. You're doing it." And she's like, "I know, because you were going to, and I know."
So she'll actually say, "Oh, mommy, that was pretty misogynistic. What just happened?"
Totally.
Really?
Because if I say it, she'll say, "Oh, are you always on? Do you ever turn it off?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess not." So when I do turn it off, she jumps in and says,
Really? I think
and then
that's
I just
great.
laugh.
I think that's great. Because I can tell you this, that impact you're having on her, she's having that impact on her classmates. Because they're all
she
talking,
is.
trust me. And
Oh,
on
they
social
are.
media, there are no more secrets now. Everything is out. There shouldn't be any secrets.
She has a classmate who came to her and said, "Oh, this Me Too thing is horrible. They're accusing and destroying the careers of so many men, and these women are just, you say one thing, taking that position."
Yes.
And so my daughter was like, "Well, here's what I said back to her." Like,
Did she really?
Yeah, for sure.
How old is she?
She's 12.
That's fantastic.
Oh, she's 13.
Oh, really?
Sorry. She's 13.
And what's her name?
Lily.
Hey, Lily, keep up the great work. As Dr. Levi here said, you go, girl. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. She's on it.
She is on it.
They're all on it. And my son. Whew.
Really?
Yeah. He's 11, so he's been hearing it his whole life.
So he knows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I tell you, the great thing about that, so he's in a home with 3 other women. Trust me, I was in a home with 7 of them. So you really get insights into life that are forever changing. The type of sensitivity, his intuition, his ability to really love and appreciate and relate to women will be. There's nothing that could do that to you except by living in that environment. Nothing.
He knows more about women than he ever wanted to.
Oh, absolutely. And just think he'll be there for at least another 6 or 7 years. So trust me.
For sure.
He'll be a very changed man.
Yes.
That's really
He'll be very
really
enlightened.
very enlightened. Very enlightened. Because women give us that. They give us enlightenment. They give us truth. They just give us so much.
Yeah.
They're the other 50%. So
And he'll call
we
me
need
out
that.
too.
Will he really?
Mom, that was pretty sexist.
Will he really?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Things like, this may be too much information, but, I told my daughter when it was time for her to go to the gynecologist, we would get a female gynecologist. And my son said, "That's pretty sexist."
He said it.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm still getting a female gynecologist. Yes, it is. Sorry.
Well, and then I'm sure you let her make that choice because she may not want. She may say, "I want to go to the best one." If the best one in the community happens to be a guy,
We shall see.
We shall see.
I shall be open.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Now, tell me this: what is your vision about the other 50%? Let's say 5 years from now.
Oh, it's funny because I'm working on my 5-year vision right now.
I love that.
The 5-year plan is I would like the other 50% to be a brand which produces all sorts of content underneath it. I've optioned a book.
Yes.
I'm working on some reality type shows, and then
Yes.
I'm doing these podcasts. And ultimately, I wanted to amplify the voices of women and underrepresented people
Yes.
to have a voice, to have representation, to be on the screen, to be in our ears, to be on all kinds of shows. Because ultimately, I want everybody, no matter who they are, to really own and stand in their power.
Absolutely.
In an equal, powerful basis.
And I think, a show like yours really gives an understanding and a platform of the relevance of that. It has to be talked about. You have to continue the show. You have to continue to let people be more aware that change is happening and that more change is needed.
Amen.
You're so funny, Julie. You're so funny, Julie. Amen. Let's talk about your book. So the book there are two. And before I talk about the book, I want to talk about the different types of training that you offer. So can you give us some insights about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, right now what I'm doing is I've taken those 5 bits of advice from all the women that I've talked to, and I'm taking that into corporations. So I started in entertainment companies to really talk to the younger, the millennial, skewing female workforce as they're starting, early career people.
Yes.
To hear the things you really need to think about if you're getting into this career and how to be successful. So I've developed that into a talk and a workshop, and I've taken that into companies.
That's fantastic. What about high schools and colleges? Because I think they would also benefit from the information that you have.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I would
I also
love to do
think
that
like
too.
the Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club of America. I think it's limitless. Because you can have great impact. I think that's a good thing. It really is. Now let's talk about your book also.
Well, I wrote a book when my last baby was born. He's now 11, but I only just recently put it out. It's called You'll Never Have a Baby in This Job Again.
Wow, what a powerful statement.
Pregnancy discrimination in corporate America.
Right.
And even though I wrote it 11 years ago,
Yes.
I just did a quick editing of it to publish it now, and very little has changed. Because at the time, I had 3 babies at a corporation and had a great experience, and I had friends who had babies in corporations and had not great experiences, and we just started asking our friends. We got a bunch of stories of really awful things happening to women when they had babies in companies. And so we went out on the internet, we collected 100 stories, and then we laid them all out against the laws that were in place to talk about this should have happened, this should not have happened, here's what you need to know, here's how you arm yourself so that you can have your maternity leave be treated properly and then continue with your career.
Absolutely. I think that's another issue that people have to be aware of. It's still happening, that type of discrimination.
For sure.
It's not quiet.
Men have babies too. They don't give birth, but they are having families, and
Oh,
we shouldn't
absolutely.
act like women are the only people raising children.
I agree with you. I think, before you can get to that, though, where can your book be found? It's on where? Is it on Amazon?
It's on my website. It's theother50%.com.
And what is your website?
Theother50%.com in letters. All
Okay,
spelled
fantastic. .com.
out.
Okay, now what about, can they reach you via Instagram or any other social media platforms?
Yes, I'm on Twitter, Other 50% Podcast.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook, The Other 50%. I'm on Instagram, Other 50% Podcast.
Way to do it.
And the website is theother50%.com.
Fantastic. I think this is just a fascinating conversation today about the power of a movement and about the ability to really expand an understanding about a really potentially lethal problem that can hit other generations if it's not changed now. And this has to be changed. And we only change it with communication, with honesty, with transparency, with empathy, and with information. We have to get information to people. So I think once you get information, then people can make a choice. Okay, do I want to act better, or do I want to still be a inappropriate person? You can make a choice then. But if you don't have the information, then you're inappropriate, but maybe you don't know it.
Right.
One other thing I was going to ask you about too is, what about your mom and dad? What do they think about what you're doing?
Well, I'm not sure. I think I know my mom thinks the technology is all very bewildering.
Okay.
So she's pretty sure I'm out there being famous, but she has no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
Because there are no smartphones or internet or any of that in Seattle, apparently.
Jeez.
So.
Really?
Encouraging, but bewildering.
Bewildered.
Yeah, I would say.
What about brothers and sisters? Do you have any of those?
Yeah, I have a brother who is a little bit in the same boat, but we just do what we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's really wonderful that you're raising these incredible young children who are getting an understanding of what it is to be involved, to raise your voice. Not only to raise your voice, but have your voice be heard, and then to do something about it. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
Thank you. Thank
You know,
I hope so.
you're on a great path. I just thank you. That's what I want to say.
Thank
That's
you.
what I say. So I want to remind everyone that they can reach Julie. And again, it's Julie Harris Walker. They can meet her on theother50%.com. And again, it's just everything spelled properly, theother50%.com. Again, she's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, podcasts. So if you want to meet her or reach out to her. She's a phenomenal speaker, a great writer, and more importantly, she's someone who is really making a tremendous effort to bring about conscious change. Not change that's only about a drop in a bucket. She's really about dropping a stone and making a big splash. And I think that's important because with every splash, someone can change and be a better person. And I think that's the way to go. So I want to thank you for being on the show. Any closing comments about anything that you want to discuss?
Oh,
Yep, the mic is yours. It's a hot mic. It's all
Well,
yours.
I think it's just so important that everyone continue to have the courage to speak up. and
Yes.
Speak your truth.
Yes,
That's the only thing. That's the only way we change anything.
I agree. And I think people, when they speak of their truth, your truth is your experience because life is experiential. So we can only talk from a place of honesty about things that we have experienced. And I think if we voice those, then they stand because then we can teach them. And also we teach ourselves how to be better people, how to react differently, or more importantly, to not react, but to respond.
Yeah. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Oh, that's a very true statement.
So we got to help everyone see it.
Julie Harris Walker, a truth seeker here. So I got to thank you. Well, guys, this is Dr. Levi. I really want to thank you for being a part of our show today and more importantly, enjoying being a part of the conversation with Julie Harris Walker, who is a trailblazer. Yeah, that's what I call her. And a very interesting, charismatic one at that. So it was really a pleasure and an honor to have her on the show with us today. And talking to her makes me want to be a better man and a better physician. So this was very enlightening today. It really, really was. So I want to thank Tony, our engineer, as well as my amazing manager, Deborah Scolari. She's always the one who makes things happen. So I'm really grateful for her. So I'll see you back here in about a week. Just remember, go out, be kind, be loving, have empathy, no judgment. Be wonderful and kind to the veterans because those women and men are true heroes. They should be treated accordingly. All right? Take care, everybody. I'll see you in 7 days. Start meditating. Bye.